act. Let's start with a meditation to give those extra few minutes for those that are entering now. And I'm just going to go ahead and press the mute button. Please do send your questions through the chat box. And at the same time, write. Mute all participants. Okay, let's see. That should be okay. Can you still hear me? Can I have a thumbs up if you can hear me? Awesome. Wonderful. So again, let's start with the meditation to enter. If you have questions, put them in the chat box. If you want, because of the nature of the subject, if you want to take notes and then open a conversation, if there's like questions that are coming up tomorrow or the day after, you all know that this is what I love and this is what I do. So the conversation can be continued in the next few days. One of the biggest gifts that I've received from the shamans is that I've learned to meditate, or I've learned the pathways to meditation, the mechanisms of meditation. And I think it's one of the biggest gifts that I've received in my entire life, because meditation in the simplest form means that I don't have to think. I can pause for a moment and come into this other space in my brain that is not the thinking self. It's not the narrator. And I'm definitely sure we're going to be talking about the narrator and the other part of the brain, which is in the higher realm of the pituitary gland and the pineal gland, which is where the shaman, or the, what we call in yoga, the witness, or what we could also call the awakened one, finds his or her seat. With that said, I invite you in this meditation today to try to see if you could come into feeling that you're coming into a huge empty auditorium. So I invite you to close your eyes and sway a little bit left and right, feeling your left sits bone, your right sits bone, come to the center, maybe lean a little bit forward and then lean a little bit back. Kind of find that middle place. And when we do find the middle place, the yogic alignment would be that the perineum is flat on the seat. Inviting your navel in towards your spine, lift your whole rib cage up and away from the pelvic floor. We want to lift the diaphragm, lift the weight of the lungs, the shoulders, and the arms, the head. All that weight is pressing on our internal organs. So we want to lift that weight off the internal organs. We don't want them carrying all that load. Internal organs are the home to all our emotions. So we don't want any emotion to be squeezed out, to be accented more, or to be deprived more. As you lift the whole rib cage up and away from the pelvic floor, invite your chin back towards your chest. And notice how that constricts the front of the throat a little bit. We're tapping into our thyroid and parathyroid gland. The center of logos. We might talk about logos today since we're talking about the nature of everything. As you lengthen up through the crown of your head, feel as if you're almost like just like half an inch more. If you could lengthen, you touch the crown of your head on the ceiling. And just that sensation alone stimulates the pineal gland. And the pineal gland is what connects us with the divine. When we open our pineal gland, we're connecting an online, direct line to the place we've come from, the space of divine energy and the Akashic fields, the point of origin. Pineal gland looks like a pine cone, hence it's received its name. And the pineal gland is the gland that gives Jesus his halo, gives the flame to Lord Shiva's crown of the head, and even more illustrated, we see it in the Buddha's hairdo, pine cone hairdo. And we'll see it in many other religions. So lengthen up through the crown of your head and feel that you are now in an empty room. Inside space of your skull is empty. The space around you is empty, but it's bigger than the room you're in. You're in a whole auditorium. Maybe there's a stadium and it's a whole empty stadium, and the only place you could find information is from straight above, and it's quiet information. It doesn't come from thought. And in order to download this information and to connect to the divine energy and find ourselves in these empty spaces of deep meditation, which is the goal of all meditation, to eventually have enough space between thoughts that we find ourselves in this emptiness, then where we're really tapping into is actual source. In that spirit world, name it God, name it Akashic fields and point of origin. And the sensation and anything we download from here is inspiration. It's insight. It's higher frequency, and it is that place of knowing. It's not the opinion of my thought, it's a place of all knowing. And gently feel your alignment with your body again, scooping your tailbone pressed down through both sits bones. Feel you're inhaling all the way to your perineum. Feel the inhalation arriving at the perineum. Allow that inhalation to fill your lungs, to lift the rib cage, tuck the chin, lengthen up through the crown of your head. So what you're creating is a column of light, an open column from the crown of the head all the way down to the perineum. That is called the Sushumna channel. And this is where we want to inhale. And what we essentially do, according to the yogis and the shamans and the martial artists, is we're inhaling and downloading our soul into this column of light. And this column of light has 7 windows in the front and in the back. And when I can inhale all of this information directly from the 7th chakra, the 7th window on the top, all the way to the first, to the perineum, then I'm fully embodying myself. I'm allowing for my spirit to be fully in the body. So inhale and feel again the inhalation. Feel it physically arriving at your seat. Exhale, lengthen up as you tuck your chin. Feel as if you're exhaling up through the crown of your head, as if you're lifting to rise out of your body to come back to the Akashic fields, to the point of origin. And then inhale yourself back into the body. We inhale ourselves into this world and we exhale ourselves out of this world. And we do this inhale and exhale, this arriving, being born, and exhaling, dying, leaving, every so many seconds. That inhale and that exhale, allowing ourselves to come and to go, to come and to go. And here, just notice it's more a sensation than anything else, because it's not a thought. If you're thinking of what it feels like to be in the empty room, you are thinking, so you're not in that space. It is, for me at least, sensations, momentary sensations of falling, of lack of any kind of point of reference. It's disorienting. The mind quickly wants to turn back to orient itself in relationship to a thought, in relationship to something it likes or not, doesn't like, in relationship to something that it can name as a point of reference and where we are standing in reference to. Inhale and invite your hands to your heart in Anjali Mudra. Feeling out as you fan out your fingers, press the fingertips, awakening heart meridian, pericardium meridian, lung, intestine, triple heater. And feel as you press your fingertips how you can widen your collarbones, awakening even more so a kidney meridian, which arrives right under the collarbones, awakening lung meridian, which is right in the corner of collarbones and shoulders. And also, as you're pressing your fingertips together, feel you're hollowing out your armpits, awakening heart meridian. And feel that hollowing out of the armpits, going all the way to the pinkies. Press the pinkies especially more. Welcome back. So I want to apologize ahead of time. We are having a thunderstorm coming in and we might be interrupted again. But thank you, Eric, for the beautiful sound. I invite you, if we get interrupted again, to just please enter back into meditation and breathe for a few moments. My brother Eric with the singing bowls will bring that Buddhist vibration into the space. So welcome. Again, I was just like, I want to say this is part 2 of that small subject I opened last time. I think this, the subject of the nature of reality and the nature of perception. It is, of course, the all-sensory, all-existence question is like, what is reality and how am I perceiving it? Who am I that is perceiving this, and what is this that I am perceiving? There's obviously many layers to this. What I can bring in is what do the shamans, the yogis, and the martial artists say about the nature of reality and the nature of perception. When I talk about the yogis, the shamans, and the martial artists, I am talking about the pioneer thinkers of humanity, right? There is a moment, and I might be referring to a little bit of what we talked about last month to remember and to tie things in together to where we're taking them today. The idea is we know historically as beings, as a species, we used to be Neanderthal, which meant we had a basic limbic brain in the back here, the reptilian brain, connected to the adrenals, connected to our main nervous system, and we had the awesome gift of the amygdala and the adrenals, where when something was attacking us, we could pump a lot of cortisol and adrenaline in our body and run to get out of there, or fight to win, or freeze to hide. And basically, the basic most important thing, and only reason we're still here today, we have the fight or flight mechanism built in our body. And the fight or flight mechanism that's built in our body is still the first place we receive information before it goes to what later happened as an evolution to humanity when we received the prefrontal cortex and we had that shift from Neanderthal to Homo sapien. So when we became Homo sapien, we received this whole new brain, the prefrontal cortex, that gave us several new qualities and opened our horizons in a whole new way, or a perception of reality in a whole new way. What we got with the prefrontal cortex was the ability to have empathy, to feel for another person, was the ability to love another person, was the ability to collaborate with another person. Along with it, we got extra, what are called mirror neurons so I could learn by watching someone. And all of us who do yoga, we've watched that happen, right? Inhale, raise your arms. And while I'm watching, my mirror neurons are telling my arms what to do because I can copy it, like copy paste. As we got the prefrontal cortex, we evolved. And those who were the first to really develop the prefrontal cortex, those whose prefrontal cortex awakened first in this, right? Because it wasn't one day we were all Neanderthal and the next day we were all Homo sapien. This was a process of a few thousand years. This is a process of a few thousand years. We're not fully Homo sapien yet. I don't know if you knew that. We're still a little bit Neanderthal. The idea is that those who were first to really awaken it and come to the prefrontal cortex, come to the front side of the body, those were the ones that began to see more. Not only did we begin to see more, understand more, remember more, but they also had developed the empathy to want to share what they saw, what they understood, what they developed with others. And these are the first essential thinkers, because before this, if you want, it's almost like there's a conversation in our brain. Thought itself is a conversation, right? There's a part of me that says this thing, and then the other part of me answers. There's like a conversation happening inside my brain, as if there's voices in my head, right? Raise your hand if you have voices in your head. Let me see hands. Anyone else have the voices in the head? Yeah, we should at least have two. Maybe sometimes we have 6 or 8 or 12. And then as a beloved friend and student of the Jaguar path said, I have a whole committee upstairs. So I'm going to say we have 2 voices. Maybe one voice is a whole committee. Maybe it's only one person. That one voice is called the narrator. And the narrator is that voice which says, okay, I'm here, I'm on Zoom, I'm watching Ray give a talk. I wonder how it's going to be. The narrator also is saying, oh, it was interrupted. I hope it's not interrupted again. If it's interrupted, I might do something else. The narrator can go on into storytelling, loves storytelling, and loves drama, right? Theater. It goes into creating realities. The other voice that belongs to the prefrontal cortex and the upper quarter of the brain, of the head, belongs to the realm of the pineal gland and the pituitary gland. I don't know if you could hear the thunderstorm coming in. Pineal gland and pituitary gland. And when I can come into this realm, I am informed by the higher self, the most developed self, the most evolved self, and I can actually come in touch with my spirit self, the higher me. And when we talk about Buddha or the Christ or Shiva, all these are meditators. They talk about reaching a state of bliss. And the state of bliss is where the narrator has no story and no drama to present. And it becomes apparent that everything is in peace and everything is one and everything is breathing and is connected together. There is no separation. There's no aloneness or loneliness. There is no division. We all inhale and exhale in this whole reality together. So the whole idea that the shamans and the yogis and the martial artists bring is that we have an onboard processor that helps us do that exactly, process things, understand things, store information so we could learn and add the information we have. And the more information I add, the more able I am to survive, to act, to engage in the world. And to a certain degree, that's big truth. The second, and then the next layer that the yogis, the shamans, and the martial artists take us to is, how can I tap totally out of the narrator and be connected with the divine energy? Now, when we come to reality and when we talk about the nature of reality, we have to first of all say, these are 2 different things. Reality, the nature of reality, and the nature of perception itself are 2 obviously different things. But where they actually meet, and this is really, really important, and this is why yoga has been created, shamanism has been created, martial arts have been created. why it's really important is that this reality outside me, I can only perceive. So how I perceive reality limits me to how much of this reality I can perceive and defines what is the reality I'm perceiving. We have 5 senses that are major part of how we're using major perceptual avenues, if you want, of how we are perceiving the world. And then once all the information is coming in through any of these 5 senses, we have several pathways that this information goes through. A, there's neural pathways that move through the brain. B, equally importantly, because a lot of the senses are moving directly through the body, we have 12 pathways that are called meridians that are connecting with our internal organs and connect with the extremities of the body. Move from the internal organs to the extremities, out through the hands and the fingers, down through the legs and the toes. Everyone with me so far? Wonderful. And I'll have in mind here the chat box for questions. Okay, thank you. It was like, Ray, you're muted. Ray, you're muted. Thank you. So I'm going to go directly and say that when I am talking about my perception of reality, when we're born, anyone who is a parent and or is close to kids, and anyone who's a parent of 2 or more kids, or knows as nephews or neighbors that live close by, we all know that we're all born with our personality. There's a joke that I've shared with several of you in the Jaguar path. When my son Jason was 18 months old, he was like in his first words, and he was in his first solid food. And I gave him some cheese to eat, and he kind of spit it out, and he said to me, "Dad, I never liked cheese." And I'm like, "Never liked? You've been here like for 400 days? When is this never you're referring to?" Because he was so adamant about it. It's like, "I never liked cheese." It's like you're barely speaking, and you can express this as a never as a concept. So till today, he was 18 years old yesterday, his birthday. Till today, as an 18-year-old, he hates cheese. And our joke is that we've decided that he died in a cheese factory. In some previous lifetime, he fell in a big barrel of milk or something and drowned. So he hates cheese. The reason I'm saying this is that we are all born with a predisposition. So here we come into a body. And as I come into my body, I turn on all these mechanisms, the meridian system, the neural pathways, the nerves, and a million other systems, but these are really major as far as perception of reality go. Chinese medicine tells us the same thing that astrologists tell us, the same thing that yogis tell us, and the martial artists. Martial artists created Chinese medicine. The Taoists who created acupuncture and herbology are the ones that created Kung Fu and Tai Chi. And they are talking about these 12 meridians in the body that perceive the world, and there's 12 major emotions that we live that we're either feeling in a good place or in a bad place. And I'll analyze this a little deeper in a second. So the basic idea is that when we're born, Chinese medicine says, and the same thing is what the yogis say and the shamans, and then you'll see this in the Vedic astrology under the yogic studies. When we're born, there's a specific parameter of the stars and the placement of the constellations where they are in the meridians of the sky, the meridians of the dome. And that is impressed upon us. And it's impressed upon us. I feel that the meridian system is kind of like, imagine it like a wire mesh system that is like a frame. And on top of this frame, we put this myofascia, and we're dressed with this skin and the myofascia that like half an inch of stuff. Our meridians describe the shape of our face. Our meridians describe the shape of our body. if we're tall and slim, if we're a little shorter or fuller, if we're stockier, if we're this or that. The shape of the body, and that's one of the things that I've tried to do many diets many times and I've suffered with the difficulty of it. I don't know if anyone else has that. It's like it's trying to change the shape of your body. It's just so difficult because it's given to you in a real place of depth in the meridian system already. Now, the meridians, as I said earlier, are connected, are a part of the internal organs. Each meridian, we have the liver meridian, the lung meridian, the kidney meridian, etc. Each one of these internal organs is the birthplace of an emotion. Our kidneys hold fear. When my kidney meridian is in balance, I'm going to feel fear. When my kidney meridian is balanced, I feel secure and everything is fine. My liver meridian holds anger. If my liver meridian is out of balance, then I might be more likely to get upset at something or at someone. When my lung meridian is out of balance, that's where we hold sadness, sorrow. Something happens, it's more likely I'm going to get sad about it. So I'm going to stop there. Many of you who are in the yoga teacher training are still receiving and will be receiving more information on the meridians. It's a big study, so I don't want to keep it to only that. But I'm going to say this, because this is important to, again, reality and the perceptual state. So if we have 3 people lined up, any 3 of us, and say, oh, since I have only one kidney, say I had a kidney meridian that was shut down. Someone else, I won't put any names, someone else had a liver meridian shut down, and someone else had their lung meridian shut down. And we all walked into a room, and there was a yoga teacher that all of a sudden said, was really inappropriate, and said, go away, I don't want to teach yoga to anyone ever again. And we all received one experience, a person shutting us down. The person with a liver meridian for 5 days is going to be writing angry emails. And that person's narrator is going to create about 150 angry stories about what happened. And who is this yoga teacher? And who do he think he is? And he's going to tell us to leave. And we came all the way from Costa Rica for the class to Washington. And now we have to leave, etc. The person with a kidney meridian is going to be, maybe I did something and I shouldn't have done it. Maybe it's because I came that we're not doing the class. And there's going to be this fear. Then it's going to be, maybe there's not going to be any yoga in the world anymore. The whole thing is going to leave days of echoing of fear around it. And obviously the person with a lung meridian is going to say, I'm very sad. They're most likely going to be crying. They're going to be feeling this for days on end as a very saddening event. They're going to be sighing all the time. They're like, I went to that yoga class and I couldn't, etc. So I say this as a starting point in a way, because when we talk about reality, what difference is, what is that? That event was reality, yet if you ask these 3 people separately, they will say 3 different things happened. There'll be a different event for each, a different experience. We experience the world in a different way, each one of us. So yogis come along and say, we have these internal waterways, the nadis, or else called rivers. Chinese medicine calls them meridians. They're really literally trickle waterways in the body that electricity runs through. And both the yogis and the martial artists both give way and say the most important thing you want to do to become real and to have a wide understanding of what reality is around you, to have the ability to engage and be more successful in things that you do in life, the most important thing you need to do, first of all, is clear out all the meridians. Because once I've cleared out my meridians, my emotions are not putting filters in front of my face in every step of the way and in every experience that I have. the yogis and the shamans alike, and the martial arts alike, are going to say, when I'm born, then I have a predisposition. That predisposition that I tend to get angry, and then my body of mine tends to get sad, or the other friend of ours tends to get fearful. That is a predisposition that I have, and this predisposition, essentially, that I have, this meridian predisposition that I have, is essentially what we call personality. And like I said again earlier, it's like for anyone that has kids, we know that we are all born with our personality, which essentially means, and it's not the topic of the day, but essentially means that we have come predisposed. We have come with prior experiences. So there was another lifetime we're coming from, because we're carrying over the balance due from previous lifetimes, or the account that has been collecting for our karma. What we need to do, what classes do we not pass, what things do we need to do all over again, over and over again, until we learn. The basic idea is, again, for yogis, shamans, and for the martial artists, is that, well, we're here and we may as well get the most out of it. There might be several lifetimes, there might not be, that could be a hearsay. What we know is now we're here, and now as Ray, it's the only time I'm here as Ray. And I'd like to get the most out of it, and I'd like to see every one of you get the most out of it as who you are now. So in order for me to balance out all my internal organs and my system and thus regulating my meridian system, I'm going to regulate and balance out my endocrine system. I need to find a way to mechanically do that. So these first thinkers that realize all that I just said, these first people that are engaging with the prefrontal cortex and are seeing what's happening, not only are they engaging with the prefrontal cortex, but they're engaging with the pineal gland, and they're exiting the body. And here's where they download information from the Akashic fields, from a higher realm of the spirit world. And thus they bring us astrology, neurology, and all these deep information, even from 7,000 years ago, without the telescopes, without the microscopes. They have the ability to download the information. So they created the system. When we do Tai Chi and Qigong and Kung Fu, it's in essence a style of yoga. And when we're doing yoga, or when we're doing all these practices, what we're doing in each posture or in each form, we're essentially opening 1, 2, 3, or a set of meridians. And then as we're breathing deep into the body, we're clearing out the meridians from the predisposition, from that predisposed way of seeing the world. Because as I come with my personality, with this predisposition to things, the thing is that my narrator already has a story, like I said earlier. I'm living behind the narrator, and my narrator has a story. And what the narrator likes to do, and what stories like to do, is to come all the way at the end of an experience and say, see, I told you so. See, I told you so. So we can enter into relationships, or we're entering into jobs. And many times what we have is what we see, what is called a samskara, is a repetition of an experience. We go into a relationship, the relationship plays out, and then it ends up, say, tragically, with being very hurt by this person who was very mean and very bad, quote unquote. And then that person leaves the relationship and starts a new one, and what do you know? After 6 months, a year, 6 years, the same thing happens. So you're watching a movie play over and over again because you're basically predisposed to see that movie. You're predisposed to have those emotions. And in order for a person to evolve to a higher way of thinking, to evolve out of a previous way of being, yogis and shamans and martial artists alike say, you have to physically change some things. You have to change the mechanism. And if you change the mechanisms, then you are going to find yourself having new thoughts, new emotions. You will arrive to new conclusions. You will have a wider sense of perception and an actually greater grasp of the greater reality. I have these big whiteboards that are my little notes. My little notes are big whiteboards. So I'm going to talk about, I'd like for us to end today and for you to have something to work with. So besides saying, because I can see 99% of you are all yogis, and we've been practicing yoga together either for a few months or several years. So I'm going to say, first of all, increase the yoga. And when you're practicing yoga, allow yourself and remind yourself that one of the most important things that is happening during the yoga practice is that we're trying to silence the brain. What I'm thinking about when I'm practicing yoga matters. What I'm thinking about while I'm practicing yoga matters because it is going to be going deeper into my endocrine system. So if I'm angry, I don't want to be angrily doing yoga. If I am angry, I want to do yoga to bring that anger out and let it out to find myself in a higher place of calm and ease. The idea is not to know the universe, but to know the self. This is why Socrates said, know thyself, and you shall know the nature of the universe and of all the gods. So if I don't sharpen my perceptual tool, how I'm realizing life from the outside, I won't be able to realize it. But if I do manage to sharpen my perceptual awareness, then I can realize greater, bigger things. And if I can't do that, then I'm feeling separate from the rest of the world and the rest of the people. And I'm feeling separate because I'm angry, or I'm feeling separate because I'm sad, or I'm feeling separate because I'm afraid, or I'm feeling separate because I'm insecure, depending on what meridian is shut down and what internal organ is functioning. And at all these times, I can never feel it's my kidneys. I can never feel it's my liver. It's this person in front of me that just cut me off in traffic. It's not my liver. I have all the right to roll down the window and shout in Greek things to them. But the truth of the matter is that the next moment I'm cutting someone else off because I was absent-minded. And now someone's yelling at me. So to be yelling, or to be, and this is tricky, listen to this one, to be pinning emotions as someone else's responsibility is a trick of the narrator. If I'm unhappy in my relationship, I need to change something in the relationship. And if I can't change that in the relationship, I need to change the relationship. If I am unhappy with the country I'm living in, I have to change something in the way I'm living. It's the emotion isn't anyone else's responsibility but mine. And when you step forward and you assume the responsibility of your emotions, then you can take them to the mat and work with them. So what are the postures that open the liver? What are the postures that open the kidneys, et cetera, et cetera? When I'm doing Qigong, how can I strengthen my bone marrow? How can I open my kidney meridian? How can I bring the fire to meet the water, the sun, the sky to meet the earth? How do I balance all these? And as I do all this, more and more I'm coming into a perceptual reality of a balanced world. And more I can understand. Then we walked into that studio and the yoga teacher shouted, I don't want to teach anyone yoga. And I can look at the teacher and say, oh, beloved fellow yoga teacher, I see your liver meridian is shut down and you're really upset. So you're out of balance, and that's why your expression is coming out of balance. And that's where shamans come along. We say we're seers, and many of you are already trained in seeing. What we're really seeing is what meridian is closing down, you know? It's like we could talk to our therapist, and it's really important to start getting clarity, but then the second level is for the shamans, the yogis, and the martial artists is to take it out of the body. Take that trauma out of the body. Take it out of the meridian. Let that internal organ find its balance. So you want to back it up with food, with practice, with a lot of water, and deep breathing. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit because time flies. And I want to share something about the shamanic reality of the world. And then I'm going to go a little bit into eyesight and how we see things. And then I'm going to go into practice of our luminous field. So first of all, one of the things that, this is coming directly from the Amazon, from the shamans, and from my personal experience. One of the things that happens is that when we start thinking about becoming spiritual, and when we start thinking to come outside of our body and to understand and realize a bigger realm, when we come outside of the body to begin to understand the bigger realm, the first realm we meet is the realm of the demons. The first thing we find is our demons. And one of the things that happens in that, and that happens to everyone that decides to go into a spiritual quest, that tries to feel their own spirit and outside. So we're beginning to become in the spirit world, in this unknown place of the spirit world, the unseen. So when I see the demons, what most usually happens is I get scared and I just come right back in my body and I go right back up to my narrator and I'm saying, I'm not doing that ever again. I went to this meditation and it was really, really scary. I'm not going to do that again. I want to talk and listen and only be in my narrator with my whole full committee. But here we go. So if we come back and we have support, the Jaguar path, or a shaman in the jungle, or yogi or martial artists in Costa Rica, there's one right there. If I have that support, I can, with someone's hand and experience, I can move through the demon world, the realm of demons. And what I come to is this big sphere that is closing, encompassing everything, that is created of sacred geometry. This is where sacred geometry comes from. All these shapes that you see that the Buddhists paint, the mandalas, are this, what do you call it? The borders of a realm, of a reality. And in order to go through there, you have to be able to become even lighter. You have to tap into the light inside your body. You move through this realm, this like kaleidoscope of mandalas. And when you move outside this realm, you've come to the realm of the saints. This is a lighter place. And this is where all the saints, the avatars, angels and archangels, gods and goddesses live. Now, this is a space that is, in my experience, in my personal experience, a real space. The gods and the saints and the avatars are all there and they're roaming the space. It's almost like right outside the stratosphere in some way. And they're all creations of God energy that have been named from human entities. So we're co-creating, God and humans are co-creating the saints. It's this light energy of God, and there's parts of this light energy of God that we name, we give it specific attributes to it, so we give it a name. We say Archangel Michael, Saint Nicholas, he protects the sailors of the sea, or we give an attribute. We say Shiva, he is the Lord of birth and destruction. Or we say Kali, she is the goddess of the motherhood, she is the sweetness, the nourishment, etc. Now, if we want to go further out and we have the help of a guide, either on this realm and especially on that realm, when we can go there and we meet our allies, and the more allies we have, the better, then I found myself saying, well, okay, well, if I can reach this realm and I can see St. Francis and I can feel Christ and I can feel all these entities, can I meet God? And then there is this other sphere and yet more intricate mandalas and more intricate sacred geometry, more difficult to really move through, which is one choice. Because if you move through that, what you come to on the other side is the whole light of everything that exists. Pure light. God is pure light. So we went from the center of ourselves all the way out here, and now we're outside this beautiful, intricate sacred geometry, and all this light, God, right? So if you decide to go out that way, you become fuel, you become a part of that light, you cease to exist. So you see you are it, so you do not have a separate experience of it. You become a part of it. You do not have an experience anymore. I feel this light again. This light now is pushing in through this intricate kaleidoscope, these mandalas. And as it's pushing in, there's only specific vibrations, frequencies, and colors and shapes are coming through. And as these shapes are coming through, they're giving life to the saints. They're creating angels. They're creating gods and goddesses. These shapes are so close to God that they have godly qualities to them. They have saintly qualities to them. They have avatar qualities to them. They have archangel qualities to them, and so forth and so on. And now these energies want to squeeze in and go back into the next kaleidoscope, go through that mandala and squeeze into this other next stratosphere, coming closer to us. And as they squeeze out, what they do is they squeeze out and they come and they beam the light straight into our heart. And that's why we all have the heart of a saint, every one of us, and the potential and the heart of a saint. Only as that light squeezes in and arrives at our heart, there's some pieces left over. It's like the cookie cutter. It's what's outside that cookie cutter. And those things that are outside the cookie cutter are what are left over to float around, and those are the demons we talked about. They're of the same material, only they're deformed a little bit. So because they are the same material, when we see our demons, we get scared. If we leave, we exit the body, it's scary to see a demon. But because they don't have the right shape, really, they are not real as anything else. They're not as real as humans are, and they're not as real as saints and gods and goddesses are. They are more what we would call them metaphorically in English and in English culture. They're our own demons. So if you really stay with it and you stare your demon in the eye for a bit, and after 3 or 4 breaths, if you just stick with it, that demon will just become smaller, 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 and basically disappear. Because these demons do not pose a threat. And in this map of reality, it is really clear that we do not live in a reality that is managed by good and evil. We live in a reality that's managed by good. The mismanagement happens because of stupidity. I'll quote Carlos Castaneda, Don Juan, saying that this world is basically run from good and stupidity. And if you think of any evil acts, like atrocities that have happened, the Second World War, all the wars, etc., they're not acts of evil. They're acts of people who are afraid of their demons and who do not have either the actual IQ for their own narrator, and much less more the ability to reach their own saints. And I'm going to bring it back to say, how do we reach our own saints? How do we become able, each one of us on this screen, to be at that place where we can maximize our ability to get our saints on board, to walk by and say thank you, namaste, away to our demons without even blinking an eye. And to actually, the reason I'm reaching out to connect with God and the saints is because if I do, I'm connecting with the higher self. And thus I can download more of myself within this body. And only then do I have the ability now in a whole different way to engage in this physical reality with everyone around me, with my brothers and my sisters, with the cats and the dogs, with the birds, with the trees, with the sea. I'm more me inside my body. Because my demons don't only hold me back from going to the realms of the saints and to reach God, my demons then make me inadequate enough, unable to really connect with life itself here and now, because I'm afraid to take the next move. I'm afraid to do something new. I'm afraid to let go of the relationship, to change town, to change country, to learn a new language, etc. My demons hold me into saying, oh yeah, it's me. I don't like cheese. I never liked cheese. It's me. So if I can say this and I can still not like cheese, and I'm fine with my son not liking cheese, he doesn't need to evolve out of that. Actually, dairy doesn't help the meridians. So but the essence is, if I want to evolve, I need to overcome my predisposition and my interpretation of the world as I had it beforehand. So look at it this way. Overall, the basic idea is breathe deep into the body, do yoga like there's no tomorrow. In the doing yoga means drink a lot of water like there's no tomorrow. In that drinking a lot of water and creating a body that is able to open the meridians, it means most likely be lighter on the meat or totally take it away, because that's another consciousness entering into your consciousness. in whatever you can shift and change. And this is not being didactic. This is basically why the shamans, why the yogis, and why the martial artists all agree on these things. A lot of water, no meat, no dairy, and no gluten, because all of these are substances that basically congeal in the meridian system, and they not only block arteries, they block, first of all, the meridians. So emotions are coming up in a different ways. My emotions are already skewed. So I need to really clear out the body, and then through the physical conditioning and the breath, I'm going to the higher and higher realms of a real clear meridian system. And now I'm able, through that, to move. And this is the end part where I want to really give you. Imagine that you're sitting in the center of a circle. And this center of the circle is that axis we began with. From the crown of the head to the perineum, when I sit, there's this axis. And that's the center point of this circle around me. I can move to the back of the body. And when I move to the back of the body and my electricity awakens in the back of the body, what happens? I engage my adrenals and my amygdala. So I'm like ready to fight or flight. So if I'm moving back, that puts me in the place where I'm most likely, again, engaging in that place. When I'm in the back, I'm in fight or flight, means I cannot access my prefrontal cortex. There's a reason we say when I'm mad, I got really mad, that it's a synonym to madness. That's a mad person. Mad person, a crazy person / crazy person, means that they don't have a prefrontal cortex. They've lost their ability to empathize with someone. They lost the ability to connect or to their ability to communicate anything. So being mad or being in the back is not the place I want to be. So come to the center. So think of this circle this way again, back and front. I want to come to the front of the body. This is why in every one of our meditations and in Tadasana and mountain pose and Jaguar yoga, we tap the heart and we tap the prefrontal cortex. The main reason we have the tip of the tongue to the upper palate, to awaken the heart now and the prefrontal cortex instead of the adrenals and the amygdala. When I open my heart and the electricity is pumping in front of my heart, the heart mind that we have, 60% of the cells of the heart are brain. Our brain. Like, instead of thinking like this, next time start thinking like this. We use the space, we think. It's called the heart brain. It's actually the name of our studio here, the Heart Brain Studio. If I can bring the electricity to the heart, I'm accessing more brain, and it's working with this prefrontal cortex. This part of the brain is working with the past and the idea and the ability to project in the future. And this part of the brain is working like nothing else works in the understanding of what's happening right now in my reality. It's like, oh, this yoga teacher is yelling, poor person. They might most likely had 3 whiskeys last night and 4 coffees this morning, and they're having a stressed day and they don't know why. And I can see that, and I can see it without judgment. I can see and understand it because I did that once too. Anyone else did 4 whiskeys or 3 coffees at some point, or all of that together? At some point, yeah, I know who you are. It's all of us. We all going to go one way or another. And if it's not the coffee, it's not the whiskey, it's going to be something else. The idea is, again, forward. And then there is this left and right. When I move to the left, I'm awakening my Ida, my feminine side. And that is the receptive. And when I move to the right, I'm awakening my masculine side, and that's the directive. The basic idea, think of it this way. All these places are important for me to be. If something comes along and it's a danger to my life, I want to move to the back and have the ability to use that to fight or flight. Most of the day and constantly through practice in yoga, tapping and breathing, keep on opening the front of the body because this is what the world needs. 90% of humanity lives in the back body. 90% of humanity is in fight or flight. If we sit on the moon and look down, you're going to see fight, missiles coming, and you're going to see flight, all the refugees leaving. That is the state of humanity. Missiles and refugees, fight and flight. And we can't get out of that. We're locked because we have to do this work. We have to protect ourselves. We have to protect our rights. We have to protect. It is all these narrators and committees who always think they're right because that's what they do. They want at the end of the day say, see, I told you so. The Red Sox were right, or the Greeks were right, or the Peruvians were right. And it's all just hearsay, and it's all personality. But in order for us to rise as individuals first, we need to keep track of all this and remember, if I'm in the back, I want to move forward. What I want to cultivate most of all is being forward most of the day. And if I'm learning something, if I'm on a talk or yoga class, I want to move to the left to be more in my feminine because I want to be receiving this energy. And if I'm moving forward and I'm teaching a class, I want to come to the right because I want to be directing that class. So feel it inside, and in the map of the brain, just feeling that you're moving front, back, left, and right by itself automatically engages the parts of the luminous field that you need to awaken, which automatically buckle into the unified field we talked about in our last session, our immediate reality. This unified field, this matrix of the magnetic field of the planet with the gravitational field of the planet. Changing our perceptual state and rising into becoming more enlightened is a physical practice that takes both a lot of diet and knowledge of diet and research, a lot of physical practice and continuous practice, and why not combine several of them, like yoga and different types of yoga, and then martial arts and different types of martial arts. And the shamanic practices are the ones that come in and they can really help us accelerate our evolution, because when we're working with a shaman, we're working with someone that's tapped into the pineal gland, and they can help us awaken our pineal gland, and they can help us make changes on the other side so we can accelerate that evolution within and change our mind and awaken our perception in a greater place that's bigger than our personality, that predisposition, that narrow passageway. Rather become more like the Christ, the Buddha, the Shiva. Become more like Shakti and Magdalene. Become more like Mother Teresa or Martin Luther King or Gandhi. When that happens, when the full prefrontal cortex is shining wide with a nice shining prefrontal cortex and forehead, and the pineal gland awakens, we then begin to naturally move, and we're inclined to be of service to others, because there is no struggle anymore that we're struggling through. We're here and we're available now to help the others move out of the struggle and rise their vibration. And if we could all do this individually, there's only one person we can really help, and that's this person. And it's not egocentric, it's our, I would say, what's the word I want to find? It's our responsibility to heal ourselves. When I went with 4th stage cancer with 90 days to live to the shamans, I said, heal me. They said, nope, it's your responsibility to heal yourself. We can teach you how, but you got to heal yourself. And this is what I want to share. Dive into the practices, learn what's behind, know that you're training to a certain degree a better thinking. You're cultivating a better thinker as a narrator. So at least when you're narrating, you're a little bit more educated. Your narrator is narrating Shakespeare or ancient Greek drama rather than something lower, rather than newspaper talk or whatever. And at the same time, what you're really educating is the body, to clarify it, to connect with the divine in order to download more of yourself. And when you do that, then you're able to engage more in life. And then what seems to be happening on the outside accidentally is what we call a coincidence. You begin to realize that it's not a coincidence, but rather coinciding lines that you have aligned to. And the moment we stop feeling any excess of these emotions, anger, sadness, sorrow, whatever, the whole gamut of the emotions, the more able we are to see clearly who life and what life is, And the more able we are to make the right choices. So we don't repeat the same relationships, we don't repeat the same job, we don't repeat the same life. And thus, we're essentially evolving to higher realms. Thank you, Mark, for the question. If you have any questions, please take a moment and shoot me an email. And we're either going to open some new talks with these subjects, your question as a subject. And there's definitely what we're already opening is all of you, I want to say most 90% of you are already in the Jaguar path one way or another. So keep in mind, we're opening these, the clinics, the yoga posture clinics, and along with the yoga posture clinics, we're going to be talking a little about this because, again, for the Jaguar yoga, it's not about the hands being parallel. It's about opening the heart meridian. It's not about the feet being this way or that. It's about opening the spleen, the kidney, etc. So basically, it's about addressing emotions. So any questions, please shoot them over, and we're going to address them through the yoga and martial arts infused with shamanic work, informed from above. Thank you all for being here. I hope this has been good food for thought. I hope it's been informative. There's several other things that we didn't get to, but that's the nature of time. And we'll get to it next month. Every first Monday of the month, we're here 7 to 8 p.m. Thank you. Happy full moon. We just move into the time of Aquarius. You could put on the song. It's legit. Welcome to the, what's the song say? I can't remember. The age of Aquarius. Thank you. This is a time to begin new things. Align your energy of your body and everything you heard with. Notice we want to be to the left and front, to the right or front, in order to best engage with what is happening. And really allow yourself to jump into this new era because there's going to be a lot of newness happening. So engage, engage, engage. For those of you who haven't been a part of the training, 9-month training is beginning. There's 2 more days for the early bird 20% discount. If you have any questions, I'm looking forward to them. Thank you.